Yes, Rob RMD. So, how did my wife and I pay off $700,000 worth of medical school and dental school debt in 14 months? Let me tell you how it went down. Um, the most important thing to know about this is that it's not rocket science. It's actually very straightforward to do this. Anyone can do this. Any physician or dentist can do this. And it just comes down to one thing and one thing only: focusing on that debt, making that problem your priority, and focusing on it until the job is done. Now, I know that there's people that are just like me, that are in medical school, they're going to residency. This debt is on their mind. It's something in the back of their mind. It comes up from time to time. They feel very anxious about it. When you feel very anxious about something, a lot of times you try to avoid thinking about it. So you kind of avoid thinking about it, and then keep in mind there are people that are working on your anxieties and trying to use your anxieties against you all the time. And there's this whole financial services industry that's out there, and all they want is one thing only. They want a little piece of your wallet as a physician, and there's no need to give it to them. But the way they get in your head is that they start to talk to you about this problem that you know you have, about your debt. They make it seem that the only way for you to tackle their debt is for you to consult with them. I went to these things. I went to these dinners, like as a resident. We'd get invited to these things. They'd say, "Oh, we'll take you out for a couple burgers and some beers, and we'll talk to you about a few things here or there." You go because it's free food, but what you don't know is that they have a whole sales pitch there waiting for you, ready to make you scared so that you will basically sign into contracts with them. I would avoid doing that. A lot of times people want to tell you how to get rid of your debt. They want to tell you, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to refinance your debt. The truth is, you don't really have to do any of those things. You have a loan servicer, you have someone that's accepting the debt payment. That's the federal government or whatever servicer works for them. So you don't need to do anything. Once you graduate, you don't need to do anything. You don't have to sign up for anything. You don't have to sign over anything. All you have to do is log on to that website and check the number and try to figure out how to make the number go down. You got to put yourself in a good position to pay down the debt. For us, that meant really controlling our costs, and it meant making sacrifices. It meant for me and my wife personally that we actually moved in. We moved in with my parents, and we moved into their house, and we were sharing living expenses. Sharing meaning my dad was paying for everything. And it's not a huge house. It was a reasonable sized house. Certainly there was enough space for us. But it was definitely not the same as the experience that we had when we were living in Atlanta by ourselves or living in Long Island by ourselves. There was definitely some sacrifices. Living in a house with the rest of my family in it, and we couldn't always do exactly what we wanted in the house when we wanted to. We had to share it. Of course, they were nice enough to share it with us as well. But what that allowed me to do is that allowed me to save a lot or allowed us to save a lot on housing, which is one big chunk of your expenses. Then kind of basically, once you control your expenses, it just comes down to earning as much as possible. So we were fortunate. We had good jobs. I had a good job. My wife had a good job. And we basically focused on earning. In my job, I made a very reasonable salary, very reasonable place to work. In my job, just like so many places across the country in terms of radiology, there was a backlog of work. Pretty much everywhere I've worked since residency, there is a backlog of radiology work. This happens for various reasons. Basically, there's more work than there is radiologists willing to do it. It's just the scenario keeps playing out over and over again. In residency, there was plain films stacking up for days and weeks, couldn't be read. And then in this job, we had extra cases that were sitting there needing to be read. Now, a couple ways that companies deal with these extra cases. One way is that they have internal moonlighting where you can go in and read these for extra pay. So that's something I did. The alternative that some people do, which is kind of interesting, I think, is that a lot of times these cases are sold off to corporations, and there's actually virtual clearinghouses of cases, radiology cases, scans, CT scans, X-rays, MRIs, ultrasounds, that are just sold off to these national radiology corporations and just read off by whoever is incentivized to read these cases. But anyways, it's not so much about the cases, it's about the fact that there was an opportunity to earn extra in this job, and I took advantage of that. And that meant some sacrifices again. I mean, that meant some days I'd work like a 13-hour day. Some weekends I'd spend the entire weekend working two 8-hour shifts. Again, to me personally, these are not huge deals. But if you want to get rid of the debt, you've got to make some sacrifices. It would have been a lot more fun if I had spent the weekend laying around or driving to the beach, driving to the city, taking a trip, whatever it is. I decided to spend that time working. And again, that was the discipline. That's what you have to have in order to say, okay, this problem wanted to go away, and I have an opportunity here to earn extra, and I'm going to take advantage of that. So I did that. My wife was in a very busy practice, seeing a lot of patients, doing a lot of work, learning a lot about the business of dentistry, and was also doing very well. The two of us together were doing pretty well. Again, we were living in our parents' house. Our expenses were low. Our debt was high. Our debt was $700,000 when we started. So we just started knocking off each month a big chunk of that debt. Now it's very painful to work hard for a month, both of us working very hard, making a large sum of money, paying the taxes on it, which is not an insignificant amount, about 30%. The taxes is going away like that. Then that cash gets deposited in your bank account. You feel good for a few seconds or a few minutes, but then that whole amount you take and you throw it into your loans, and it makes a small dent. We did that for many, many months in a row, 14 months to be exact. We did that. And finally we were able to throw in the last chunk, and we were done. And honestly, there's not much more to it than that. We earned high. We spent less. Like, we didn't go on any vacations. I did splurge on a Mercedes SUV. So, again, you can splurge as long as it's within reason, or as long as it balances out. So we did splurge on that. But yeah, we didn't go on vacation. I didn't really take any fancy trips. I didn't buy any fancy designer bags or anything like that. My wife didn't. We focused on the debt. We focused on spending time with the family, enjoying ourselves at home when we had time. And we focused on working. And we focused on getting that debt paid. And yes, after 14 months, $700,000 of debt was gone. It felt good. It felt amazing. I want everyone out there that's in debt from medical school or dental school or other professional schools to get that feeling and to know that it's achievable. Stack the chips in your favor. Stack the chips in your favor. Do you have a family member that's willing to let you live with them? Can you work something out with them? And I know everyone's situation is different. See, we didn't have kids. Actually, personally, I feel we've put off having kids because of our debt, because of our training, really. Because being a radiology resident, being an IR fellow, I think it's almost impossible to really have children, but some people do it. We put off having kids until we really felt comfortable, confident financially. So put yourself in a good position where you can achieve this. If you have kids, maybe moving with family is even a better option, because you can hopefully have somebody there to watch the kids for you. Because childcare is another big cost when you're trying to get out there as an attending and make this all work. Not much else to it. Live low, live lean, earn high, toss all that money into the debt, bang it out till it's gone, till the feeling's gone, till the debt's gone, and then after that, you can start to live your life on your terms. And for me, what that's meant personally is I've learned to figure out what a good deal is and what a not so good deal is. Only way to figure that out is to get burned a few times, but it's happened to me. I've learned where the value is and where the value is not, and I'm learning to focus my mind and my talents on where the value is. So That's all there is to it, guys. Struggle RMD.